this mean? Help us.
It means that our students are in great danger.
What should I tell the staff?
The truth. Tell them Hogwarts is no longer safe. It is as we feared, Minerva. The Chamber of Secrets has indeed been opened again.
Again? You mean the Chamber of Secrets has been opened before?
Of course. Don't you see? Lucius Malfoy must have opened it when he was at school here. And now he's told Draco how to do it.
Maybe. We'll have to wait for the Polyjuice.
Good evening. We now cross over live to Songshan Airport in Taipei, where we see a U.S. Air Force plane is landing. The SPAR-19 flight was the U.S. Air Force jet that flew the U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Malaysia as part of her Asian tour. The Air Force operated Boeing C-40C took off from Kuala Lumpur at around 3:40 p.m. with almost 300,000 users following its move online in an aircraft tracking website. After more than 6.5 hours, it arrived in Taiwan without taking the shortest direct route. Now you can see the U.S. Air Force operated flight has landed on the tarmac at Songshan Airport in Taipei. Songshan Airport is a regional airport and military airbase located in Taipei for not just the military but also civil aircraft. Now the aircraft, SPAR-19, instead of flying through the South China Sea, it headed east of the Philippines to reach Taiwan, taking around 6.5 hours to land there. Now we can see a contingent of Taiwanese representatives waiting at the airport, likely to receive the U.S. Air Force operated SPAR-19 or Boeing C-40C. And again, the SPAR-19 flight was the U.S. Air Force jet that flew the U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Malaysia as part of her Asian tour. And Taipei did not appear on Pelosi's official itinerary of her Asian tour, which was released over the weekend, but several Taiwan media outlets speculate that Pelosi and her accompanying delegation will arrive in Taiwan on Tuesday evening and stay overnight amid strong opposition from Beijing. If so, this would be Pelosi's third stop on her Asian tour, following visits to Singapore and Malaysia. It's understood, according to Taiwanese outlets, Pelosi would likely spend the night here in Taiwan. The Grand Hyatt Hotel in Taipei City, where security barricades have been set up with security details stepped up. According to, again, Taiwanese outlets, Pelosi would then visit the Legislative Yuan and the Presidential Office building in Taipei, which both are around 20 minutes away from the Grand Hyatt Hotel by ride. And after a luncheon, the House Speaker will reportedly drop by a human rights museum before leaving Taipei at around 4 to 5 p.m. And that means Pelosi will likely stay in the self-ruled island for around 20 hours. Now, back in March, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was another U.S. official who stayed at the same hotel, the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Taipei City, when he visited the self-ruled island. But if Nancy Pelosi's Taiwan trip materializes, she will be the most senior U.S. official since 1997. At the time, then House Speaker Newt Gingrich visited the island when China was under President Jiang Zemin's rule. And again, we are still watching live at Songshan Airport in Taipei. The U.S. Air Force plane, SPAR-19, has flown the U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Malaysia. It's still unclear if she's on board, but we will probably know in a few minutes' time. And more. And ahead of Pelosi's likely visit to Taipei, both Beijing and Taiwan vowed to step up their military forces. As you can see, the cabin door has opened. Again, this is SPAR-19 flight, the U.S. Air Force jet. The Boeing C-40C that took off from Kuala Lumpur. It arrived in Taiwan after more than 6.5 hours of flight. It didn't fly. It didn't take the shortest direct route from Kuala Lumpur. Instead of flying through the South China Sea, the U.S. Air Force operated Boeing C-40C headed east of the Philippines to reach Taiwan. As the flight arrived in Taipei, the People's Liberation Army has dispatched a known number of Su-35 multi-role fighter jets across Taiwan Strait. Okay, so it's likely that Pelosi has arrived at the airport. The U.S. delegation is believed to be greeted by the Taiwanese delegate. It's likely to be headed by Joseph Wu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Taiwan. And again, Nancy Pelosi would be the most senior U.S. official since 1997. It's been a quarter of a century since the then Speaker Newt Gingrich visited the island. At the time, China was under the rule of President Jiang Zemin, and now the cross-strait relations have undergone much of a sea change. It's understood it's very likely that the woman in pink is Nancy Pelosi. So we can now see she's accompanied by a contingent of delegation walking through the tarmac in Songshan Airport in Taipei. Yes, so here we are, it's Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. It's been a quarter of a century since the last visit by another House Speaker. Back in 1997, it was Newt Gingrich. You can see, apart from being received by Joseph Wu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Taiwan, she's also received by the director of the American Institute in Taiwan, Sandra Springer Outkirk. Pelosi's visit to Taiwan comes amid ongoing warnings from Beijing. China vowed to undertake firm and strong measures against Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, with her visit to Taiwan being described as provocation.
Sure. Enlighten me. Why are we brewing this potion in broad daylight in the middle of the girls' lavatory? Don't you think we'll get caught?
No. No one ever comes in here.
Why?
Moaning Myrtle.
Who?
Moaning Myrtle.
Who's Moaning Myrtle?
I'm Moaning Myrtle.
I wouldn't expect you to know me. Who would ever talk about ugly, miserable, moping, moaning Myrtle?
She's a little sensitive.